How to watch the game is being broadcast on Fox and streamed on foxsports.com and the Fox Sports app. Find out more about what to expect here. Showing a quick burst with his legs, Patrick Mahomes ran the ball in from 1 yard, putting Kansas City ahead, 7-3, with 31 seconds left in the first quarter. The drive had been extended thanks to the Chiefs showing some aggressiveness on 4th down, going for it on 4th and 1 from the San Francisco 5-yard line with a direct snap run to Damian Williams. Mahomes's touchdown run was the prize for that decision. Over and over on the drive, Mahomes got the Chiefs most of the way to a first down with a pass, and Damian Williams picked up the rest of the yardage with a run. Once Kansas City got into the red zone, San Francisco got its first sack of the game, with DeForest Buckner and Earl Mitchell tracking Mahomes down for a 1-yard loss. 2 plays later, when no options presented themselves, Mahomes raced up the right side of the field for a 10-yard gain, fumbling the ball out of bounds at the end of the play thanks to a huge hit by Jimmy Ward, who was briefly injured on the play. It looked like Ward's hit, which stopped Mahomes just short of a first down, had forced Kansas City to settle for a field goal, but after coach Andy Reid had a change of heart, pulling his kicking team off the field, the Chiefs got their first lead of the day. The longest play of the 75-yard drive went for just 14 yards. Robbie Gould's 38-yard field goal has the 4-9 ERS ahead, 3-0, with 7:57 left in the first quarter. The 4-9 ERS had got exactly the start they wanted to open their first drive, before eventually stalling out. After a run to start the drive went for a 1-yard loss, George Kittle picked up a first down with an 11-yard catch. That got the Chiefs on their heels, which set up one of San Francisco's signature deceptive running plays. The ball was pitched to wide receiver Deebo Samuel, who took the ball on a sweep and raced down the sideline for a 32-yard gain. After a few runs by Tevin Coleman, who is back after dislocating his shoulder in the NFC Championship game, they ran another deception play, with Samuel looking to pass before running up the middle for a first down. The drive was extended after a dropped third down pass thanks to Frank Clark's being whistled for offside, but it ultimately stalled out, ending in Gould's field goal. San Francisco went 62 yards on 10 plays and took 5:58 off the clock. Kansas City's first drive went nowhere, and the 4-9 ERS officially looked brilliant for deferring on the kickoff. After Mitch Wishnowski's kickoff was returned 29 yards by Mecole Hardman, Kansas City started its first drive of the game at their own 26-yard line. They started off well with a 7-yard run by Damian Williams, but Patrick Mahomes then threw 2 incomplete passes, resulting in a 3-and-out. San Francisco won the coin toss with Richard Sherman's call of tails and the team deferred the choice. As a result, Kansas City will start with the ball and will defend the west end zone. That directional makes more sense if you're in the stadium, but you'll get the hang of it. The 4-9 ERS will receive the ball to start the second half. Kickoff is expected at 6:39 p.m. Eastern. The singer Demi Lovato performed a stirring version of the national anthem, drawing huge cheers in Hard Rock Stadium, and if people bet on the length, it appeared to come in around 1 minute 50 seconds. The wrestler-turned-actor Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson handled introductions for both teams, skipping past listing every name and just going with the stars. But Johnson, who was known as the People's Champion in his WWE career, gave a special shootout to George Kittle of the 4-9 ERS, whom he referred to as the People's Tight End. During the week, Kittle talked repeatedly about the thrill of meeting Johnson when they worked on the planning and filming of the introductions, saying his heart was racing when he found himself chest to chest with his favorite wrestler. Kittle's love of wrestling runs deep. Quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, one of Kittle's best friends on the team, said he would not be surprised if Kittle retires to a career in professional wrestling someday. From Kevin Draper. The Chiefs should feel at home here in South Florida, as the Super Bowl crowd is overwhelmingly pro-Kansas City. Every time a Chiefs player entered the field for pre-game warm-ups the crowd roared. The 4-9 ERS, with the exception of Jerry Rice when he was announced as part of the NFL 100 team, were greeted with boos. Bill Belichick got more boos than anyone, but that's hardly a surprise in Miami. Walking around the stadium concourse, Patrick Mahomes' jerseys dominated, though there also is a sizable Travis Kelce contingent. San Francisco fans are primarily wearing Jimmy Garoppolo's number 10 and Nick Bosa's number 97. Vivid Seats, an online ticket marketplace, estimated the crowd would be 63% Chiefs fans to 37% 4-9 ERS fans, but in the stadium it certainly seems more pro-Kansas City than that. Though it can be difficult to tell visually because both teams wear red. To honor Kobe Bryant, the basketball legend who died along with 8 others in a helicopter crash last week, the players for both the 4-9 ERS and the Chiefs lined up on the 24-yard lines and took part in a moment of silence shortly before 6 p.m. at Hard Rock Stadium. The 24 was a reference to one of Bryant's jersey numbers. Bryant's imprint on players, particularly San Francisco's Richard Sherman, was apparent all week, as many reflected on what Bryant's so-called Mamba mentality had meant to them and how his death had affected them. Sherman, who first met Bryant at a Nike photo shoot during Sherman's time with the Seattle Seahawks, arrived at the stadium today wearing Bryant's number 8 jersey from the 2004 NBA All-Star Game. Bryant wore number 8 for 11 of his NBA seasons and number 24 for 9. "He was a friend of mine," Sherman said at Monday's Super Bowl opening night event. "He was a mentor. He meant a lot to this world. He had a positive impact, and there's nothing that I can say that can quantify his impact on myself and others." While many players discussed Bryant as a role model for them, Sherman's connection ran deeper, based on their friendship. Sherman described Bryant's influence as having affected a decision he made at the lowest point of his career. "I guess my biggest Mamba mentality moment of my career was getting up from a torn Achilles and walking off the field," Sherman said. "I saw him do it. I saw him make 2 free throws and walk off with a torn Achilles, and once I tore mine, I knew I had to walk off." In announcing the moment of silence, the NFL also dedicated it to the Pro Football Hall of Famer Chris Dolman, who died on Tuesday. If the 4-9 ERS build a big lead in today's game, do not expect San Francisco coach Kyle Shanahan to let up for a second. The scars of a collapse in which one of his former teams, the Atlanta Falcons, gave up a 28-3 fourth-quarter lead to lose a Super Bowl still linger. Both he and his players described a certain level of paranoia about finishing games well, which Shanahan freely admitted was a result of the Falcons having blown such an enormous lead against the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl that followed the 2016 season, the last season before Shanahan joined the 4-9 ERS. "I think anyone can learn a lot of stuff from that game," Shanahan said. "I mean, no matter how much you get up on someone, you've got to keep moving the chains to keep the ball from going back." Shanahan said at the end of his team's 27-10 divisional round win over Minnesota he freaked out because Robert Saleh, his defensive coordinator, had pulled his starters with a 17-point lead in the final 2 minutes. "Oh my God, he almost killed us," said Richard Sherman, San Francisco's veteran cornerback. Sherman said the Vikings had completed 2 passes and converted 1 first down when Shanahan had seen enough. He was like, "What the heck is going on? Get them back in there," Sherman said. "My gloves were off, I was about to ice my knees, and it was like, get your gloves back on." Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49 ERS starting quarterback and a backup on the New England team that came back to beat Shanahan's Falcons, did not see anything odd about his coach's unwillingness to let that happen again. "I think that's just a good head coach," he said. "You kind of want to have that because in this league crazy things can happen. I mean, 28-3, we all saw that one. You always have to be ready, so I like that mentality." From a Fox Sports executive. The Chiefs are officially sticking with Damian Williams at running back, with the veteran LeSean McCoy headlining Kansas City's list of inactive players for today's game. McCoy, a six-time Pro Bowler, gained just 465 yards in his first season in Kansas City. Coach Andy Reid repeatedly said his team had no injuries to report this week, but McCoy, who was rested even when healthy during the regular season, is being left out of what would have been his first Super Bowl. While not surprising, the most significant inactive for Kansas City is guard Andrew Wiley, who has not played since Week 15 because of ankle and shoulder injuries. Steven Wisniewski will continue to fill in as the team's starting left guard. The 49ers list of inactives is mostly bench players, with wide receiver Dante Pettis being the most prominent player who will not be suiting up. Tiffany Hsu of The Times wrote about the commercial onslaught we can expect today. More than 80 ads will play in the commercial breaks of today's game, including campaign spots from a billionaire president and a billionaire presidential candidate, safe humor and visual gags from T-Mobile and Reese's, and flashbacks to the 1980s. MC Hammer, Molly Ringwald and Winona Ryder all make appearances. The commercials will hit the usual beats, with a tearjerker from Google, a jumble of celebrities from Hard Rock and a cute dog named Scout from WeatherTech. But there will also be several firsts, including a debut from Facebook featuring Chris Rock and Sylvester Stallone. A spot from Sabra Hummus most likely has the first appearance of drag queens in a Super Bowl commercial, in a banner year for LGBT representation. Other notable ads will include a spot from the NFL about police shootings, a subject it has struggled to address amid protests in recent years by the former 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick. The Brunswick Bulk Calendar Cup, given to the first pro football champions, is the holy grail of American sports memorabilia. It's also missing, and has been since almost as soon as it was awarded to the Akron Pros in 1920. Bill Pennington of The Times spent months trying to track it down. He writes, "It could be in someone's attic or chock full of pencils on a schoolkid's desk. At this point, the chances are not very good that anyone will ever find it." Joe Horrigan, the former longtime executive director of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It sounded like a challenge. And so began the mission to solve this whodunit, this where is it, a quest that hinged on finding that person who, when shown the only existing, shadowy photo of the trophy, would say, "I've seen that. My mother uses it as a doorstop." It was a journey that meant knocking on doors, poring over library collections, tracking down interview subjects in 12 states and spending at least one dusty afternoon searching behind the drywall of several abandoned Ohio buildings. Bill's article on the search is quite a tale. You'll love it. The NFL has frequently faced criticism for its inability to elevate people of color to head coaching positions, and the league's Rooney Rule has often been described as insufficient. Currently there are only 4 head coaches of color in the league, a list that might have grown longer if 2 high-profile coordinators had not been so busy coaching this game. While Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator of the Chiefs, and Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator of the 49ers, were both mentioned as top candidates for nearly every head coaching vacancy, they were both left standing once all the seats were filled. Of the 5 jobs that changed hands, only one went to a person of color. Ron Rivera, who is Hispanic, was hired by the Washington Redskins. With no remaining vacancies, Bieniemy, who is black, and Saleh, who is Arab American, probably will have to wait another year for their first head coaching jobs. That has caused mixed feelings for the people they work with. Coach Andy Reid of the Chiefs said that he is Bieniemy's biggest fan, and that he already considers his protege to be a head coach. "I really don't think he needs to work on anything to become a head football coach," Reid said. "I think he's ready to go. He just needs that opportunity to get in and go." John Lynch, the general manager of the 49ers, expressed similar sentiments about Saleh, who won a Super Bowl as a quality control coach with Seattle on his way through the coaching ranks before rising to defensive coordinator with San Francisco in 2017. "There's a side of you that is disappointed for a friend," Lynch said. "There is a side of you that's like, yes, we get him for another year. George Kittle, the 49 ERS third-year tight end, seems to save his best work for overmatched players in the opposing team's secondary. And he admits that is by design. Kittle's most important play against a defensive back this season came in Week 14, when he dragged his team into range for a winning field goal against the New Orleans Saints despite Marcus Williams, a safety, hanging on for dear life from Kittle's face mask. But Kittle's most fun play of the season, at least from his perspective, came during a Week 15 loss to the Atlanta Falcons when he demolished a cornerback on a goal line run and was filmed laughing maniacally while rolling around in the end zone. It was a scoreless game early in the second quarter when the 49 ERS lined up at Atlanta's 2-yard line for a running play, and Kittle, who stands 6 feet 4 inches and weighs 250 pounds, saw that the only player in front of him was Ricardo Allen, a 5'9", 186-pound cornerback. Kittle said defensive backs often take cheap shots at larger players in the open field, but that this situation gave an enormous advantage to the offensive player. "I'm in a three-point stance and I know it's a run play," Kittle said, recalling the moment before the snap. "He's going to get absolutely all of my effort on a run play, and he doesn't know if it's a pass or a run, and he doesn't know if he needs to be physical with me." Kittle said his laughter was the result of thinking about how much fun it would be to watch film of the play. He described what happened what's known as a pancake block as the best possible feeling in football. As Kittle, a huge fan of professional wrestling and one of the game's more boisterous characters, told Ben Spiegel for a story about the 49 ERS running game, "You take a guy, you drive him backward, you put him on his back and you feel the exhale of his breath and he loses his wind. It's kind of snatching his soul." The Chiefs' defense went through a drastic makeover last off-season. Justin Houston left via free agency, Dee Ford was traded to San Francisco, Eric Berry was out of football, yet Kansas City's defense showed significant improvement. The biggest reason for the uptick was Tyrann Mathieu, the All-Pro safety known to many fans as the Honey Badger. Mathieu earned that nickname during his time at Louisiana State for his wild demeanor on and off the field, but this past week he expressed some unease with the persona. "I feel like I got caught up in that Honey Badger character and it began to consume me," he said. A calmer, gentler, more mature Mathieu was all over the field in his first season in Kansas City, piling up 70 tackles, 4 interceptions and 2 sacks while being named first-time All-Pro for the second time. His ability to contribute against the run and the pass helped paper over some of his team's defensive shortcomings. Coach Andy Reid said Mathieu was everything the team wanted and more, describing the 7-year veteran as a great leader, while acknowledging that the Honey Badger character was not entirely gone. "We just unlock the cage and let the Badger out on game day," Reid joked. "He loves playing, man. I mean, he brings it every play. He does it in practice. He does it in the game. He's fun to be around." Miami Gardens, Florida: Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce and Tyrann Mathieu. Jimmy Garoppolo, Raheem Mostert, George Kittle and Nick Bosa. In a Super Bowl that is predicted by odds makers to be among the closest in league history, there is no shortage of stars who may reach the next level of fame by leading their team to an NFL championship today. While the game is not quite the offense versus defense narrative that some have tried to sell, San Francisco actually scored more points than Kansas City this season, and the Chiefs allowed fewer than the 49 ERS. It is still a fascinating matchup of the 49 ERS, a team that built itself on a well-balanced attack on both sides of the ball, and the Chiefs, who have tried to find the right complementary pieces to give Mahomes, their star quarterback, the support he needs to realize his sky-high potential. The storylines in this game are plentiful and have led to a collective shrug about which team is actually the underdog. Officially, the Chiefs are favored by either 1 or 1.5 points, depending on where you look. Kansas City, which played in 2 of the first 4 Super Bowls, is back in the game for the first time since Len Dawson led the Chiefs to a win over the Minnesota Vikings after the 1969 season. The team's 50-year gap between appearances set a record, and it was largely defined by the franchise's inability to find a quarterback. The Chiefs used a first-round pick on the game's most important position only 4 times in that 50 years, failing badly with Pete Beathard, 1964, Steve Fuller, 1976, and Todd Blackledge, 1983, before finally scoring with Mahomes in 2017. The 4.9 ERS, who built a dynasty with Joe Montana in the 1980s, had it continue seamlessly with Steve Young in the 1990s, and briefly appeared to have found a next-generation quarterback in Colin Kaepernick in the 2010s, appeared in 6 Super Bowls in those 50 years, winning 5 of them. And they became something of a quarterback factory for the Chiefs, with Steve DeBerg, Montana, Steve Bono, Elvis Grbac and Alex Smith all starting in San Francisco before ending up in Kansas City. As ridiculous as that quarterback connection is, it may be trumped by the parallels between the starting left tackles in today's game. San Francisco's Joe Staley and Kansas City's Eric Fisher were both first-round picks out of Central Michigan, the only first-round picks in Chippewa history, and they both went through radical physical and positional transformations in college, gaining 75 pounds or more to get ready to compete at the pro level. Both teams feature all-pro tight ends in George Kittle, San Francisco, and Travis Kelce, Kansas City, and both defenses have wildly talented veteran leaders in their secondary in Richard Sherman, San Francisco, and Matthew. The places where they differ are quarterback, where Mahomes is a much more explosive player than Garoppolo, and defensive line, where San Francisco's gaggle of 5 former first-round picks, led by a dominant rookie in Bosa, is more ferocious than anything Kansas City's defense can offer.